Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Gareth Ike's Big Mouth. Hopefully, this is the last podcast we'll be doing in this studio because we're moving studios at the minute. So hopefully it's the last time I'm going to be sat here in a jacket, freezing. So the last podcast, I'm joined by Stephen Wybrow. Stephen is a free and independent investigative journalist from Vienna, Austria. We're also joined by his colleague, Errol Kea, a shaman who specializes in energetics and how protection by source works. Together, they founded the Gnostic Takeover Common Unity, which is aimed at empowering humanity. So I'm very excited to get into that and how we can do that, because we certainly need empowering at the minute. So guys, lovely to meet you. How are you?
Well, things are the way depends how you see it, where your perceptions are tuned to. Like, of course, we've got the whole COVID situation going on here also, because it's a global agenda and manifesting also here in Austria. But there is a big movement going on here, and the people are rising. And it's been accelerating ever since about the middle of December. And people have started to go on walks together. Instead of doing demonstrations on a specific point and registering that, they just started to meet up and just go for walks. And we've had people like groups of people of 500 to 1,000 to 3,000 people just joining each other on a walk. And who's responsible for this? And the system tries to categorize it. Oh, you can't do this. Whereas, the people just come from the basic standpoint that this is our land. I'm taking a walk here. And when there's lots of people joining me, you better ask the question, why there's so many people going for a walk here? Maybe there's a problem in this country and we better look into it. And that's what's been happening the last weeks. Just people going out, marching together, and coming together basically, and giving a strong signal to the government that we're not ready to put up with this any longer.
That's
That's
such a
quite
great way
positive.
of doing it. Such a good way of doing it. So simple.
Yeah, very simple. The truth is simple, and also the solutions that we face to the world crisis that we have right now, they're very simple, but they go very deep, and we need to deprogram from the sense of reality that was put to us by this system, and that's how we can get out of this. But it's a constant effort to really act from within your sovereignty, which is given by the creator, or as we call it, by source, and just stay in that sovereignty and act according to it.
I think that's something that they've kind of tried to adopt a little bit more here, actually, where there were lots of protests throughout the summer, and they were great. Don't get me wrong, I was at like a lot of them, but they found that having these protests organized, you were then surrounded by the police. They were just taking the organizers, arresting them, issuing these crazy fines and stuff. So they found now that just taking walks is such a good idea, because there's no organizer, there's no one, you're allowed to go for a walk. The fact that 1,000 other people just happen to walk at the same place is just one of those things. It sounds like a really good way of getting around it. So tell me about your organization then, that the pair of you have formed.
Well, we formed the Gnostic Takeover community. So it's all about the Gnostic Takeover, and actually moving a step beyond just informing people about what's going on. And what I can observe a lot in the alternative media is that the focus is so much on a symptom, that is COVID, for example. There's lots of symptoms around the main problem that we face as humanity. And true Gnosticism that we try to get deep into and sort of get to the bottom of things. Gnosticism is about gnosis. It's about gnosis is defined as ultimate discernment of reality. What is real reality? What is natural reality? What is the natural way? And it has to do also with shamanism and energy work. And that's where me and Errol complement each other quite well, because I come more from an analytical, information-based sort of deciphering how this system that we live in, this control system that is run by a bunch of criminals, how it operates and how we can get out of that system. And I come more from the analytical perspective of looking at how it is structured and how we can really make a stand, positive action in your power, in your truth. And Errol is more on the side of the energetics. So Errol is a shaman, and we do energy work. based upon the actions that we take. Like, for example, on the 23rd of October, we invited Age of Truth TV from Denmark to Austria to film me delivering a notice of liability to the Austrian president. And straight after that, we had a press conference. And we want to support that effort, which is based on an understanding that under natural law, all human beings are responsible for the behavior that they put out into the world. And we want to make the people in the system aware that they themselves also, presumably, are also human beings, and that they get the results of their actions that they take. And with this action that we did, it's now formed a sort of, I would call it a source-based approach of how to deal with the real problem that we face in this world crisis, of which COVID is a symptom, of which 5G is a symptom, of which genetically modified organisms or genetically modified vaccines are a symptom. And what we aim to do with our group, the Gnostic Takeover, is to find out about the root cause of the problem and deal with it on a causal level and really focus on that. Because through the causal level and penetrating into the causal level, we start to change reality. And that's what our approach is all about. It's all about changing reality and combining efforts. And it's not something that you can plan. Like, we're into this now, a few months of dealing with the world crisis. We started having regular demonstrations here in the city of Linz in Austria since the beginning of May. And we've been doing this every single week. And that is what makes a difference. It's not the big protests that you see, for example, in Berlin, where 1 million people gather for one day and send a big signal to the world, look, we don't want this, da, da, da. But it's actually repetitive action, because you are signaling to the source of life that you really want to make a difference. And what this creates is momentum, doesn't it, Errol?
Momentum of building up energy. It's all energy work. First, it begins with energy work, and then you take action based on the energy work you've done.
How's it been received? How's the organization been received?
Well, it's not, we don't really work under this organization. We've just basically created a channel on Telegram where people can gather and exchange views, and just get to the bottom of things and speak about the real problems that we face as humanity. So we're not doing this under any organization. We've got a bunch of people that have come together synchronistically, the right people. And we've just been gathering every Friday, which is also called the Festival for Freedom. And we've been doing this every week on Friday. And it's just like we've had like only 50 people at a nice sunny day where you'd be thinking, oh, wouldn't it be nice, to just have a break and do something else? But it's the regularity that makes a difference. And for example, we've had maximum of 300 people, maybe 400 people at one gathering for weeks and weeks and weeks. And the 36th time we did the demonstration, that was on the 1st of January of this year, suddenly the bubble burst. And suddenly we had like 4,000 people there. And the whole square, which is a main square in the city of Linz, packed full of people. And that's where the control system and the representative government here in this country really just were completely shocked, because they don't take us serious. We're just a bunch of hippies speaking about conspiracy theories, and they can't do anything, But when you keep doing that, the energy builds, and then the sort of a bubble burst, and you sort of upgrade to a new level, and suddenly the people are behind you. And that's what the system can't deal with. The system can't deal with momentum and with real truth and real force coming to the surface. And that's why right now, and this is also something I would want to get into, now the government is trying to frame any people that are rising up and standing up to this tyranny as terrorists. And that's where right now, it's very important that we're at a specific point right now where all the narratives and all the agendas are coming together as one. So it's not only about COVID and not only about a PCR test that doesn't test for virus that was never isolated, the huge scam that is, but they're bringing in now also for the purposes of installing global governance, this international system, through the climate change agenda, and also one very important point of this takeover, 9/11 and the framing of terrorism. That is also now coming into play in a big way, and we saw that last week with the Capitol building, which they stormed. Like the people
USA?
from the
Yeah,
system.
that felt very Reichstag fire to me. That Capitol Hill.
It
If
was
I'm honest.
organized.
Yeah, completely. And I must admit, like there was quite a lot of talk a few years ago about wild conspiracy theorists, dangerous conspiracy theorists being linked to domestic terrorism, stuff like that. But now being a conspiracy theorist is just not buying it. Like I've seen people that are just, establishment people that are going, well, hang on, what about the PCR test? That's enough now to be labeled like a COVID denier or labeled a conspiracy theorist. And it is a very important time for all of us, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
This has always been their long-term plan, Gareth, to label us all, everybody who stands up, as terrorists. So that's why they had to manufacture forced terrorism in the first place, and they used 9/11 to do it. That's what it's all about. It's all about now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And the Patriot Act that they brought in off the back of that, all these things all tie in together. Here in the UK, they're trying to force through something at the moment called the Harms Act, which is so vague, intentionally vague, obviously. So as far as the Harms Act is concerned, if something you do or say may cause harm, then that's enough. And so you think, well, who's the judge of that? Who judges that? So if I don't go along with the, women can have penises thing, if I don't agree with that, because scientifically, biologically, that doesn't make any sense, I can by saying that cause harm to someone that believes that's true, and that's how they identify. And so it's getting to a point now where I don't know about you guys, but I knew it was coming, but it's coming quicker than I even thought.
Yeah, and these are all stepping stones towards them labeling us finally as terrorists and total criminals, which is what they are. It's all inversion. That's what they are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
And that's where if you demonize someone to the point of them being a criminal or being a conspiracy terrorist, blah blah, you're going to get public opinion to kind of back, well, yeah, they should be sent off to camps. Of course they should. They're evil. They're terrorists. And you can just see how they're manipulating it. Exactly.
And there's an important point to be made about harm in that respect, because what is it? It's about triggering people. This sort of what is it called? The jelly generation, or what is it called? The notion?
Snowflake generation.
The snowflake generation, exactly. And they've been programming people for years now with respect to that. So that's the system basically saying, when you trigger people's program, when you trigger the program of this prime matrix that they're trying to implement, which is an artificial reality that was portrayed in the movie. When you trigger them, that's an offense. And now, because you've caused harm, you have to face the consequences of that. But right there with harm is the prime key, and that has to do with liability, because they are the ones that are causing the harm. What they want to do within this, as David also often shows you, within this pyramidically structured system, everything is pyramidical, and it represents the prime structure of this matrix that I'm investigating. And it's all about, what I try to do is to simplify things and to alchemize the most important information that we need to become aware of. So as David triggered also, and this is how it works, that's why it's so important for human beings to share proper information. And when you listen to your dad, for example, he gives you the full load. He doesn't hold anything back. He synthesizes information. And when he talked about how they close an electric circuit through this pyramid system. So the order is coming from the top layer of the pyramid, which goes off into non-human domain, also from my analysis and understanding. And they want to put in this system It's always about acquiescing to the orders on all levels. And they want to go right to the base of the pyramid, the lowest strata in which they say us human beings are in, that we follow the orders that was instigated by a criminal cabal and that closes an electric circuit. So we cause the harm onto ourselves by wearing masks and take on the responsibility for that immoral behavior and for that unhealthy act of wearing a mask. A mask is just a symbol for this whole process. And that self-harm, when you don't want to cause harm to yourself in this system now, you are the terrorist because you're not wearing a mask. So that's why it's so important through this notice of liability approach. What this does is that you on the base of the pyramid is just saying, hang on a minute, how about flipping that pyramid and inverting it, which is the symbol of this, not coincidentally, that's why I'm wearing this, because when you flip the pyramid downward, how many people does it take for the liability, meaning the responsibility, to go up into the political sphere? One single individual. And that's what the system doesn't want us to know, that with the action of just one individual saying, I remove my consent to a crime against humanity, and I'll make you, as I did with the president of Austria, I make you privately liable to all the damages that are caused as of the 23rd of October, as I did. And that changes the whole game, because now he has to realize that he himself is operating under natural law, like every human being on this planet. It's enshrined in the realm that we experience, and it is the most hidden information on the planet, is an understanding and an application of natural law principles. And what happened actually after I served the notice of liability, 2 weeks afterwards, and it always goes in 2 weeks according to international law, when they don't respond, then they are in tacit agreement with what you've said. 2 weeks later, all over the newspaper, the president is out of office. He was taken out. Because now what happens is that the mafia goes to the president and says, you don't speak to those people.
Yeah.
Because they give them different information. The mafia, the people that are controlling the system, because everything in the system is about information compartmentalization. You only have a need-to-know basis at all levels. So the presidents and the politicians are told by the mafia, don't worry about a thing. Just follow your orders. Everything is fine. We control the courts. We control the constitutional courts. We control the media. We control everything. And you don't have to worry about a thing. Whereas when someone from the public becomes aware of the dynamics of how liability works, we come to the president and tell him, you know, you're privately liable. You yourself as a human being. And that is sort of like an entrance to resolving this situation, because now it's like, yeah, who takes the liability? It's up in the political sphere and at any point of resolution of a crisis. Like, for example, in the Second World War, we had the fake, I have to say, fake Nuremberg trials, where most of the Nazis, of the higher strata, already got out of the country to places like South America and the US through Operation Paperclip, for example. But at least the principle of the Nuremberg trials was, who takes the responsibility for all the damages caused? And that's the prime key that we have to get at the end of any court case, for example. The prime question that is asked is, have you been notified of your liability? And when that has been served, and I've got it right here, the direct proof that he has received it, case closed. We know who's responsible because he was informed. And you see, and that's the power of this information that we want to bring forward as a template. Because if there's number one message from the source or from the planet, as we've understood, is human beings take responsibility, act responsibly, and act within your truth, which is your very protection. I serve this to the president because I know they cannot touch me, because the protection of forces that we don't see, the force of the source itself has got my back, and they back off. They can't touch you. As your dad also explained, why can't they kill him? Why can't they kill me? Because we understand the workings of reality. And that's why they can't come into our space. We're protected to do the work that we do.
Our very action within our own truth is our very protection.
Do you have a template for what you sent to the president? Because that would be fantastic to get, I know if we put that on the website and said to people, send this to your prime minister, send this to your president, to your council leader, I think people would, and that could really make a difference by putting it back on them, because that's something I found very odd in terms of public health. So with the mask situation, I can make myself ill by wearing a mask. I can cause all kinds of problems, as several studies have shown, to protect other people. And that has to be the only time in history where I damage my health to protect other people. Surely your own health comes first. So everyone has their own health first, and then in the whole, it's fine. So if I'm responsible, if I'm wearing this and I'm making myself ill, and I'm being made to do that because I'm responsible for everyone else's health, then who's responsible for my health? And I guess that's the point you've made, isn't it?
Exactly.
You are. That's why you have to take it to your boss and say, you want me to wear this mask at work, but are you liable if anything happens to me? And then your boss will most likely turn around and say to you, no, I'm not taking responsibility. Then you say to him, well, if that's the case, I'm not wearing a mask. And you'll find that there's nothing you can do. You don't have to wear a mask then.
What this actually is, liability, which is the key word, which represents responsibility in this system, because it's a monetary-based system, and it has to do with insurance. These masks are uninsurable. Why? Because they cause harm. And all you have to do is take back your power, because all of this mask is bullshit. They cannot prove anything because it harms you. It's never been about health. It's about MK Ultra technique. COVID, what we have to deal with COVID is mass mind control. That's what it is. That's what it really is. That's also what 5G really is. A lot of people talk about the health consequences. The prime focus of 5G is mind control. And that is also what government means etymologically. Comes from the root word gubernare, which means to control, and mentis, meaning the mind, you see? And that is what we need to face. The very causal problem that we have in this world is that people believe in authority, that people believe in government. That is the very normal that got us into the new normal. It's very important that we understand that. If we do not correct that, then we're never going to change anything, because it's this liability, and to put liability onto someone else, like someone you work for wants you to wear a mask, and you say, are you taking liability for this? This is exactly the self-correcting mechanism. That's why I've been doing work for 11 years to actually find what is the self-correcting mechanism of this system. And it is liability. Wherever you go to, whoever tries to tell you what to do, you always ask him, are you signing this notice of liability? And no one is ever going to do that. And you're left alone. Everything is fine. And I can write to you a template, basically, information important for people to know of how they can set this up. But basically, just simplify things. The reason why people don't write their own notice of liability is because they're looking for a template. Well, guess what? They're liable anyway, and you write the notice of liability based on your truth. All I can do is write down bullet points from my research, which goes into the work of Edward Bernays, Propaganda, a book also that I have here, which is Government of the Shadows, Criminal Sovereignty and Parapolitics. I can synthesize that information, make bullet points, but you, the individual yourself, write in your truth that you take full responsibility, you act as a sovereign being that you are by nature, that no one can ever take away from you. That's the biggest problem this matrix control system has, is that we have free will at any point, at any moment. And if there ever was a time to enact that free will, it is now. So I can send that to you, but I want to remind everyone here, there is no template. I didn't plan anything of what happened after I served the notice of liability. It came to me magnetically by the source. So this is how the source operates. When you trust the life force energy of this realm that is more powerful than anything else, then it's a maverick approach. Each step is presented to you along the way, and all you need to know is the next step, the next step, the next step. And the eventual outcome is going to be that the criminal mafia network energetically has to leave this country and eventually this planet. That's the basis on which we work on.
I think the
That's
biggest
where we're at right now.
I think the biggest issue people have is that, like you were explaining the point where, you know, all these things all tie into each other. People seem to think, even people that I know that are kind of generally switched on, still feel that like the COVID symptom, and I agree with that, and the 5G symptom is a reaction to something. So this virus has come along, and everything that's happening is a reaction to that. So it's, you know, the governments are just pissing in the wind, basically trying to figure it out. And it's like, no, this goes way back. This goes way back. So your reaction to the pandemic, and your reaction to, because I don't know if it's the same in Austria, but in the UK, the government's advised by psychologists. They're all psychologists within SAGE. So, you know, that makes the point, you know. Yeah, and I've said several times, like, this is crazy. Like, you've got psychologists on the radio telling people what they need to do with a virus, and it's like, but you're a psychologist. If you were a chiropractor or a dentist, people would be going, why am I listening to a dentist about a virus? But people seem to accept it from a psychologist. It's very strange. But what people don't tend to realize is that the you know, the apathy that people have now is because of how society has been for decades, within the schooling system, within the media, within everything. So you're reacting now because you've been programmed to react like that. And people seem to find that quite difficult to get their heads around, I think.
Exactly. And this is exactly the problem. And it's interesting that when you look up international law, because I've got a dictionary of the jurisdiction here in Austria. And when you look up international law, it actually says it's the law of habits, habit creation. The problem we have in society is that people became accustomed to the habit of having criminality in government. That's the problem. The people that are criminals that are running your government and have been running it since decades, ever since you came onto this planet. That is the very problem. And this is the long-term thinking, you see, where you see the real patterns in the background that is not conveyed to you on the surface level, like the iceberg picture. And I see this everywhere. Most people are focused on the symptom level and just the iceberg that you can see. But that's where occult information comes in, where you see the workings of the iceberg, which is much more, much deeper underneath the surface level of reality. And that's what we need to realize is the very problem is that we accept criminal behavior. And as soon as we start not accepting it, like, how do I get out of the matrix? How can I become a free human being? Don't wear a mask. Simple.
Step one, easy.
Step one, easy. That's
Very
how you can
simple.
start right there. And look what happens to you around you. And remember, one of the Hermetic principles is you change reality when your will is stronger than the will of the environment. That's where things really change. And just wait for them to approach you. And just face it, you know? People tell me in the supermarket, for example, oh, you need to wear a mask. And I say, I don't have television. It's a mind virus.
Such a good response.
The most powerful one is, it's forbidden for the dead to speak to the living, and they have nothing to say. I mean, we have fines from the police, and we just use it as toilet paper. You don't have to pay fines because it's not law. They tell you it's law. It's not law. It's regulation.
And there's an important part also in this, because this system, you know, in this system, which is important also to understand, the government can only act according to the laws they put in place. Now, guess what? Everything around the COVID is not law. It's regulation. Why is it not law? Hidden information. Every law is a contract. Everything in this world runs over contract law, corporate law. And every contract, in order to be a law, has to be insured, because it has to be clear who takes the liability when damages are caused according to that law, according to that contract. And the fact is that the masks, the social distancing, the lockdowns is uninsurable. Therefore, it cannot represent a contract which has to be insured, and therefore it is no law. And that's, for example, I wrote back to the police when they sent me a fine, and I explained this to them. And then I said, if you take me as a prisoner, first of all, a lot of people here in Austria know me by now because I speak every week. But if you take me into as a prisoner, it's not the fine that tells you I have to go to prison, like, for example, 5 days for the fine, representing the fine that I have to pay. Actually, 1 hour of prison sentence for me costs 369 million euros because it's contract based. I determine how much my life force energy is worth, and nothing comes back. You see, that's what people need to learn. These fines are just agents of the system to put pressure on you, because they themselves are under pressure. The police officer putting the fine is under pressure by his boss, and up it goes the pyramid. But you need to break that circuit, stand up for yourself and act within your truth, and understand that none of this can be law because it's uninsurable, and a law is a contract. These dynamics, and they don't want you to know this.
No, they absolutely don't want you to know it. It's powerful information. It really is. It's interesting, actually, because here in where I am in Derby, a little way from here, only sort of 5 miles away, there was 2 girls went for a walk, right? Which you're allowed to do, you know, even through their silly rules, you're allowed to go for a walk. But because they both picked up a Starbucks on the way, that constitutes a picnic, right? So they got issued with a £200 fine each, right? Now, unfortunately, most people would just go, oh, God, that's ridiculous, and then pay it. But luckily, these 2 women had a little bit about them, and they refused to pay it. It made national news. The police have just now apologized publicly, which is fantastic. And, you know, that's the thing, isn't it? If you stand up and you say, oh, I'm not having that, that's ridiculous, I don't consent to that, magical things happen.
Exactly. And the only thing that restricts you from doing that is the programming. Again, we go back that the problem started long ago, and it started in childhood when you went to school. And it's the stick, you know, fearing the stick that you're going to get hit when you don't conform. That's where the problem started. The only thing why people don't take action is because they're afraid, like a rat in a lab, of the electrocution. Zzz. Well, go through the zzz and you see it's nothing. I got nothing on you, nothing. And the more you do it, that's where you heal the cause of the problem. Your self-esteem goes up, your confidence goes up, and you act as a moral human being. The key thing we need to act upon is morality. That's what any Satanist doesn't want you to know, is that the more morality increases, the more freedom increases. They are directly proportional to each other.
They hate morals. That's why they try to eradicate morals, you know?
And that's why I went deep into the study of Satanism. You know, like Sun Tzu in The Art of War said, study the enemy and find out the Achilles heel that they have. That's why the most hidden information, I say again, is the principles of natural law and heart-based intelligence. The most hidden information. And that's a true Satanist is not about worshiping the devil. A true Satanist is about hiding information and acting and only giving you the information which bamboozles your mind. Satanism is all about mind control. And what most people don't understand, as you said before, psychologists running the government and the reaction to the virus, on the highest strata of this pyramid, they're not bankers. They are Satanists, but most of all, they are psychologists. That's what they are.
Exactly. Yeah.
When we know this, that it's all a mind trick, and we flip the inversion back to natural reality, then we've got the back of the entire force. So what are you afraid of?
Yeah, because their spell only works on the mind. It doesn't work on here. So if you're coming from here, they can't control this. And this is what people have to realize. The power is here.
Absolutely.
And that's
The
right action.
the will of the source comes through the heart. And their biggest enemy, the biggest enemy of the system is free will, which is what they're trying to eradicate. It's free will. It's their biggest nightmare.
Exactly, yeah.
That's why they have to sedate us with vaccines to turn us into robots so that we lose our free will. Then it's game over for us, but that's not going to happen.
And just a quick one to heart-based intelligence, because people might ask, yeah, heart-based intelligence, what is it? Well, we've only got limited time to get into it now. It's right action. You know what's right. And the reason why we're losing our rights is because people do not know a right from a wrong. Simple. Right action is action that doesn't cause harm to other sentient beings. Simple. And you do this as often as possible, and clarity is important. Just do it as often as possible. When you're too intimidated at a point, okay, retreat, go back to your center, get your power back. But then the next time you go into the battlefield, which is now this reality, when you go shopping, you act in right livelihood and realize you are a sovereign being. And this is our planet, and we're taking it back, everything. That's the intention we need to have.
And here's another thing about rights, guys. Rights are fiction. There's no such thing as rights. Only criminals have rights. They need rights. We as the people don't need rights because we're free. It's the criminals which operate on rights. That's why we're the ones who are supposed to be reading their rights, and not them reading us our rights, because we don't have rights. We're free.
Invert the whole thing,
It's
and
all inverted.
you read them their rights by saying, are you taking on the liability? Because this is an insurance system based on contracts. Are you insured for the action you take? No, you're not. So you're privately liable, and he backs off.
Yeah.
Very powerful information.
You don't understand what I'm talking about? Take me to your boss, or bring your boss to me.
Yeah.
And that's how you do it. You go up, up, up.
Yeah. And that's how we take it back, by understanding what the system is. And the system is the cause of the problem. And the system operates in our mind, you see, and that we get out of the mind by getting more into the heart, by acting in right action. And that's how we solve it, one step at a time.
It's such important information, and it's refreshing to hear solutions as well, because that's something that's kind of been lacking, I think, in the last year. Lots of people are doing a fantastic job pointing out what's happening. Like you said earlier, like the PCR test. This is a fraud. This is a scam. This is this. This is this, and it needs pointing out to people, obviously. But then it's like, okay, it's time for a solution now. And I'm with you. I think the solution is. I got asked this yesterday. Like, what should we do? I think nothing. Don't do anything. Do what you want. Live your life. Like the protests are great. Like I said, I've been on lots of them. But at the same time, it's fine waving that and shouting freedom for half an hour and then going home and carrying on, going along with the lie. But just by being a sovereign human being and saying, no, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going to live my life how I see fit, my face, my rules. That's massively important. And I think you guys are doing great work. Is your Telegram group open to everyone?
It is open, yeah.
How would we find that?
It's called the Gnostic Takeover Community. I can send you the link.
Please do. Yeah, I'd like to join it myself, if that's all right. That'd be fab. If it's cool with you guys, maybe in a couple of weeks, would you be up for coming and talking again with myself?
Would love to.
It'd be great. You guys are like fantastic to talk to, and we'll be in the new studio then. So I'll be like you guys in a t-shirt. Can't wait for that. But also everything is happening so quickly. Like I remember when I was doing podcasts before, it's like I'll talk to someone, it's very interesting, it's great. Maybe we can talk maybe in 6 months or a year. And now it's like, you know what, we could talk in 20 minutes and it'd still be different because everything is like that.
There's a quickening. You see, there's a quickening because that is also an inversion. Time is not running out for us. Time is running out for them.
Exactly.
And you see what I also learned from David, and by the way, David has had such an influence on my work, what I'm doing, because I learned the dot connecting skill through David and seeing the patterns, and finding my truth. through his work. That's how you see, you have people have such an impact on each other's lives, and that's how humanity should be. Share the information that you know.
Unity,
Pure unity. Because
collaboration.
we're not here to tell people, oh, that's the truth now and all that. No, we need to find out together. We need to find out and get to the bottom of this and really clear it, you know. And it's so important that we do this right now at this time. And Austria, David often says, you know, what they do most is to protect the first domino.
Oh,
That's why most people think, oh, so there's not really anything changing. You see that things are changing and time's running out for them because they're going so fast. Like the vaccine inside a few months, I mean, that's crazy. Even people that are pro-vax are suddenly like, hang on a minute, you know, I'm not taking this vax. This is crazy. Only a few months, it's not had any trials, you know. But this is where you see that real change is happening. And I tell you, the first domino, and I'm happy to be proven wrong, absolutely. But my understanding is the first domino is going to fall in Austria, because there's very specific things to know about Austria, why they will fall here.
We can get into that later on.
And we can
it's
get
big.
into that later on.
It's big.
Really big.
It's all to do with energetics and the land.
Yeah. And also the police, because we're getting through to the police, because we were there every week doing and sharing information. The police is starting to get on our side, you see. And in this country, we've had a past of Nazism. It's embedded in the psyche of the people here. And the police, it's changing, the energy is changing. That's why the Austrian interior minister even talked about getting the German police into Austria to deal with us, because the Austrian police don't want to go against us, because we're the last glimmer of hope to really push the mafia out.
I mean, it's good here because the Austrian police and the military don't want to do anything against their own people. They strictly don't want to do it.
Yeah.
I think that's what the European army was all about. So they can send
Yeah.
different people from different countries in to other European states, because they don't have the sympathy of the fellow Austrian or the fellow Pole or whatever. And that's quite key. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, I really appreciate you guys talking to me. And if, maybe a couple of weeks we'll have a chat, and it'd be really good to get into Austria. Actually, I love Austria, although I'm a bit annoyed that fucking has changed its name. That annoyed me.
Yeah.
Yeah, what is it now? Fugging. That's what's going on. I had a photo at that road sign years and years ago. I'm glad I managed to get one before they took it away. Yeah, never mind. But yeah, thank you very much, guys, and we'll keep in touch as we do anyway, Stephen. And it'd be great to have another chat in a couple of weeks about Austria specifically. I think that'd be really interesting for people.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Magic.
Yeah.
Well, cheers, guys.
I can write to you the template also.
Please do. Yeah, please do. And if
how we do it and just our experience.
That would be great.
Because what's also important, we need to reconnect with the land. You see, that's why we do energy rituals in the main energy points in Vienna, you know, and we connect to the land, and energetically the criminals then have to leave because the land and the energy is not supporting them anymore. So we can get into this next week.
That would be great. That would be great. Yeah. Solutions are what we need. Well, thank you very much for what you do as well. And I would urge people, if they're on Telegram, to go and check you guys out, as I will be in a second. And we'll speak soon.
Excellent.
Good.
Cheers, guys. Take care.
Cheers.
Bye.